Welcome, welcome, welcome to another beautiful and wonderful podcast with a lady I've had my eye on, and there's a reason for that. I saw her in Twitter floating around, and I thought, oh my God, this lady is very popular, and she's deals with ADHD somehow. I didn't look into the details. I thought, okay, let's have a podcast with this lady. And you know what I'm like? I like to be clueless, Eli. I don't like to know anything. So with that said, we have Sydni Rubio with us today. And she has a brand which is basically saying, what in the ADHD, with lots of followers. Sydni, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I was super excited to see your message a couple weeks ago. I know I took a while to reply and get back to you, ADHD, but yes, thank you for inviting me.
I know she shadowed me, people, and ended up crying for days, being rejected by her. And then one day she sent me a message, and I thought, oh, how wonderful! She does care.
Yeah,
And with that, she sent me a message, and we, I think we bounced back twice, and then we're here now. Sydni, thank you for being with us. Just start us off by just letting us know what you do to help people and in a successful way, and then we'll go with the flow and just have a conversation.
All right, so this all started I think back in like 2019. I just wanted to create content that made sense for people with ADHD. I wanted to explain complex ideas in fun ways with like metaphors, but also just like explaining it, not like dumbing it down too much, just really making it easy for people to be like, oh, that's what's going on in my brain. I am a really creative person, which sometimes gets me in trouble. I'm sure we'll get to that later with like burnout and stuff, but I just really try to be myself. I try to look at the real side of things. I try to stay away from like the toxic positivity. Hopefully not too much, but I try to be realistic in like ADHD struggles and offer realistic advice. Sometimes I don't offer realistic advice. Sometimes I don't offer advice at all because that's not necessarily my point. My whole idea is to help people feel less alone. I just remember when I was going through my diagnoses, or even before my diagnoses, I felt like I was the only weird person out there that dealt with everything I was dealing with. So like that's been my goal from day one, is to just try to create fun, engaging content that makes sense and helps people feel less alone. So I do that with YouTube. I'm getting back into writing, and I'm on Twitter mostly. I've tried other social media accounts, but like on social media platforms, but consistency is an issue for me, as with a lot of ADHDers. So
yeah. No, I totally feel you and get you, and I suffer from that also. Being consistent, especially on social media, I really I'm much easier for me to engage one-to-one. But you talked about helping people feel less alone. Obviously, this is a situation that you felt very alone yourself and isolated. So would that be correct to say?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of my childhood and adolescence and like young adulthood, I didn't really understand why I felt so different. So once the diagnosis came and once I learned more about it, I'm like, okay, I want to give this feeling to other people. I want to help them feel like they're not alone in this either.
And what does different mean to you? And when I say mean, you had to live different. You had to live alone. What would that look on a typical day, week, month when you was younger?
All right. So, I mean, stop me at any point and let me know if you relate to any of it, because sure.
I'll tell you what you do. Go way back. Go as far as you can that you can remember with hindsight. Where the difficulty was apparent with hindsight, because obviously you didn't know that at the time. But right. With hindsight, just go back how far you can.
So honestly, I think it went, probably like back in kindergarten. But I remember the year, and it stands out to me now because this is the same age that my son is right now. When I was in third grade, I don't know what it was, but third grade was like when everything kind of just started just going downhill for me at school specifically, and with my parents and like extracurriculars. So like, I would get in trouble a lot at school. I would have to like pull my card. It starts on green, and then if you pull it enough time, it gets to like red and black. So I would pull my card a lot. I would get calls, home to my mom, saying I wasn't listening, I wasn't paying attention. And of course, back then, I mean, I'm only 31, but I mean, in the 90s, like, people didn't really think that girls could have ADHD. So no one was really suggesting that. Whereas the hyperactive boy sitting next to me got his ADHD diagnosis. And then here I am, and everyone's like, you need to sit still. You need to act like a lady. You need to, all this stuff. So like, it just seemed so easy. And that's something that like, I still feel this way. Being a human seems so easy to other people. Like, I feel like I struggle with, like, everyone else got this memo on how to be like, this is like how to be a human 101, and I did not get it, and I just feel like I'm left out somehow with that, if that makes any sense.
It does.
But yeah, that's kind of like the general feeling. So like, it started in, I would say I was around 8 years old, and like I said, I'm starting to notice some things in my son as well, just like behavior and attention wise. But I don't know, I didn't have the same interests as other people. I would always like really get into one thing. Like a lot of neurodivergent people, we have our hobbies and our fixations and everything. And it was never like the mainstream kind of stuff. I don't know if that's nerdy to say, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what made me feel different. I just kind of like felt like the other kids weren't, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like I dealt with bullying too. So like, I think that probably also had a lot to do with why I felt kind of isolated when I was a kid. And, there was a lot of tension in my parent relationships. So I don't know if my ADHD was like the only thing that was going into that, but I feel like because my parents and my teachers and I didn't know that I had this, that I was neurodivergent, that I am neurodivergent, that everyone just put these like neurotypical standards on me and these expectations on me, as they do with a lot of kids. They just assumed that I would, fit this mold of neurotypicalness. And when I didn't, I felt like something was wrong with me. So I've always just carried this around my whole life, feeling like, I'm going to do something wrong at any moment. I'm going to offend somebody. I'm going to not do the right thing. I'm going to break a rule. So I think it's just like always being kind of worried that I'm going to do something wrong, basically.
Yeah, no, I get you. And because you weren't typical like the other kids, and because you felt different, then you felt you was wrong or broken, which, to be honest, you weren't. You're just different, and it's okay being different. Easier for me to say that now, but when you've grown up from a point of view where you made to feel that you're not quite right or correct or normal, it's very hard to step out of that zone. To have the confidence within yourself to say, you know what, I'm not broken, I'm just different, and that's a good thing. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to observe, and I get that. When I was growing up and I had problems, and dyslexia was one of the things I had, it was really, really difficult to feel stupid, even though I knew I wasn't stupid. But when it comes down to paper or being creative in some form with the written word, it's really difficult, right? And you do hold it for some time. So I do get a sense of feeling how you felt and how you carried that on. And it's not easy. So how was it with support from your parents? Because you had to deal with feeling different, even though you may have been similar to the boy next to you, and he was ADHD, right? But there was something wrong with you. Did you get that support at all, and that understanding from anyone within the family or anyone such as your peers? How did that come about? How was that situation for you?
Not great. So I don't have a relationship with my mother. And I think a lot of it just roots back to the childhood. Like, she put a lot of pressure on me, and she would make a lot of comments about things that I now know are ADHD. So she would just be like, why are you always so messy? Why can't you just listen? Why is your room always a mess? Everything's so disorganized. Why can't you sit still? Like, she would just like, it was like constant almost. So I like, you know how like therapists will say like you have like that voice in the back of your head and it's your parents' voice. Like I said, I'm in my 30s and I'm just now starting to learn to separate myself from that voice of like, I don't need to assume the role of my mother and like point out all the things that I'm doing wrong. So like, I did not get a lot of support, and I actually didn't even get diagnosed until I was, I think, 25 years old, when I was in college. So, I mean, my dad was in the army, in the military. So he was gone a lot when I was a kid. But when I told him that I was diagnosed with ADHD, and then now that I've learned a lot more about it, I know that I got it from my dad, and I point things out to him and help him understand like, hey, this is what executive dysfunction is, and explaining, like pointing out things that I resonate with in him too. So as an adult with my parents, like with my dad, at least, I'm kind of like turning it around and like teaching him about things. But yeah, I think a lot of probably my anxiety, like I mentioned before we started recording, I'm a very anxious person. I think a lot of my anxiety probably came from that constant criticism and ridicule that I had when I was a kid from my mother.
Well, the situation we did that is obviously brought you closer because you've got something in common with him, right? And
Definitely.
now I suppose he appreciates you more because he now has an understanding. And I would suggest that it's easier for him to understand you rather than your mother because he has those similar issues, right?
Yes, definitely.
So you have some, how can I say, between the both of you, you have something to share with. So your relationship must be stronger than it ever been. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, like we butted heads, when we spent time together. But I would say that definitely now is because he's, that adult relationship, but then now he's a grandfather to my son. So there's that added bonus of our relationship now too. So
oh, how wonderful. That's so nice to hear.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So with ADHD, you found it very difficult for you to have the confidence to deal with the things you had to at a very young age. We talk about tools in a lot of the podcasts I do. Everybody has a coping mechanism, certain tools they use just to get through their day, their week, their year. What tools did you start to create for you to get over the issues? No, that's the wrong word. Not to get over. No, not to get over your issues, but for you to cope with your issues, just to get through the day, and just for you to survive mentally, and just to get to the next stage. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Do you mean like before I knew I had ADHD, or like after?
Yeah, before you knew you had ADHD, because that was the really difficult part, because you didn't know you had ADHD, but people were making you feel stupid. People were isolating you in so many different ways. So you had to create certain things to cope, certain ways you had to do to cope. So what were those things? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I journaled a lot. I had like 18 journals that I would kind of scribble in, and then I would lose it, and then I would start scribbling in the next one, just like reflecting on the day, reflecting on how things transpired and what I wish I would have done differently. I I found other people, which I now know, like my best friend in high school also has ADHD. So I tried to find other people like me, just to kind of connect with and be goofy with. You know, I listened to a lot of music when I was younger. That definitely helped put me in like a kind of recenter. Anytime like my mood or irritability would just kind of get the best of me, it would kind of help calm me down. But I would say, yeah, definitely a lot of writing and surrounding myself or trying to surround myself with similar brains. And it's funny because, like you said, in hindsight, now of course I know it's, neurodivergent people are like magnets to one another. But I didn't know that at the time, but it's cool seeing that now.
Yeah, so let's talk about the music side of things. I mean, typical teenager, we use music anyway, regardless whether you're neurodivergent or not. But when you use music, what type of music did you use? Because there's a lot of information out there when it comes to music and sounds, and they call it pink noise and loads of different things they're using for neurodivergence. So I'm just trying to get, is there anything particular that you used to use that should change, or was it just a typical music thing?
It was just typical stuff, honestly. Whatever was popular, but like things that I resonated with lyric wise. Like I've always been the type of person that really tries to get into the meaning of lyrics, and that's the writer in me. But I wouldn't say it was anything like fancy or special.
No, I feel you, because I use music myself, but I'm the opposite in the way that I use instrumental. I don't like words. I like to feel the words within the instruments.
Okay.
So I'll listen to anything, one extreme to another. Score music's a big thing for me. I love score music, and for me it's the best thing, because for anyone to create score music, it's got to be with the emotions on the screen. They've got to literally bring out those emotions without words. So I listen to everything. I listen to jazz, dance music, jungle, pop music, you name it, because I come from a musical background anyway. But score music tends to control, like for instance, I had a team, and I was dealing with a team today. My brain was going, as my mother would say, 10 to the dozen, which basically means it was thinking so fast. I was thinking 3 things at the same time, and I get frustrated because I need to get that information out. But unfortunately, the people I work with cannot work as fast. So I need to put and play classical music to slow me down. If I don't, I get frustrated because I'm thinking, why can't you? Why can't you do that? So I'm dealing with 3-4 people at the same time, and I've already solved the issues, solved the problems, but they're not working fast enough. So I played the music, I slowed myself down with some classical music and with some score music. That works for me. Obviously, something is different for everybody else.
Though.
Go with it.
You said the score music, and that just like sparked something. I forgot that there was, I don't know if you've heard the score of Requiem for a Dream, but that was like back in like the early mid 2000s. But that, when I was like 16 or 17, I like latched onto that, and then actually that became my thing, was score music. I can't believe I forgot about this. When I would study, like, so that would help me like stay focused when I was studying in college. Now this was after I got diagnosed, but I know exactly what you're talking about, like the emotions of it. And I don't know, I really like the strings. I'm just now starting to learn music. Duolingo has a music language now that I'm learning. But the strings, like the cello and the violins, and I don't know, there's something about it that I love. And I can't believe I forgot about that when you asked that. I apologize, but yes, that's definitely the something that helped me focus a lot, really, when I was getting my degree and studying for exams and stuff.
Yeah, what I would suggest listeners, try score music. The reason why, and I do listen to music with lyrics, but the problem is when you're trying to focus, you're listening to lyrics, the words, etc. But with score music, it insinuates emotion without listening to words. So the same emotion that words can create, score music will do the same thing and even more. Remember, when they produce score music, they produce it to a film where it's got to incite emotion within the screen. That's what's clever about score music. So you're allowed to focus without the words, but still feel the emotion. So that's what I say
I love
about
that.
that. Yeah, it
It's
is.
so cool.
Honestly, try it. Try it. Score music
Uh-huh.
all the time, every day. When I'm literally, and even the opposite is true. If I need to speed up and I go, come on, Eli, you chilled out too much, then I would put some dance music in, but it wouldn't be with words. And if it is, slight words, repetitive words, the kind of words that aren't going to take you away from what you're doing. And so if I need to up my game, I go, right, okay, enough of the score music. Let's do some techno or whatever. And then bam, I'm into overdrive again. So I control my emotions by using score music or jazz or dance music, depending on where I'm and what I'm trying to achieve. Maybe that will help someone out there. Who knows?
And or like if you really need to get motivated to do, I don't know, things that you really don't want to do, kind of like what you said, more of the upbeat stuff definitely is more of a mood booster and a motivation booster for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think you need to be neurodivergent for that to work.
No.
But that's my technique anyway. So great. So all right. So the music side of it really works, and it works for you, Sydney. And it's even working better for you because you're now understanding, how things can help you at this point in time. So it's not just when you was young, but you're using it now to help you go forward. What other tools do you use? What other?
So obviously, after I was diagnosed, like medication has been a huge game changer for me personally. Of course, it's not for everyone, but for me, it has been. And then therapy helped. I also have someone gifted me something called a passion planner, and
really?
I like. Where you go ahead.
Yeah, go. But remember,
okay.
This is a friendly show, talking about passion and all that.
Oh no, I promise it's PG.
I was only joking.
So,
but go on.
It's called a passion planner, and I actually use it differently than you're supposed to. So like
okay, so just take us how are you supposed to.
You're supposed to use it like a normal planner. Like it marks it down by like your days, and you kind of like there's cute prompts and stuff, and like motivational things and to-do lists and everything. And but I, like a lot of people with ADHD, really struggle with like making plans and sticking to them. So instead, what I started using it for is reflecting on my day, because I realized that I would forget, like, when was the last time I showered? Was it 2 days ago? Was it yesterday? When was the last time I did this? I forgot what day I had this meal, because I also have other health issues. So I'm like trying to keep track of stuff. But I just go back in my planner and mark. I draw a line from like, okay, maybe between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. I worked on like data analysis stuff. So I like draw a line and then I color it in. And it's so satisfying to look back on it and see all the colored blocks, because then I can like see, like sometimes I feel really down about myself. Like I've been going through a really bad rut the last like year, struggling with finding, things to occupy my time and finding work and all that stuff. But when I look back on that, I'm like, wow, I really did make a good use of my day, and it helps me feel better about what I did with my time, and it keeps my eye on, like the goals that I'm trying to pursue. So like that has been really huge. I've only been using that for like 2 or 3 months, but that's been probably my favorite thing so far as an adult.
And you know what? I think I'm going to try that. That sounds interesting. So what I'll do is I'll speak to you about that personally later on, and try that. Let's see if that works for me. I can add that to my tool set at the same time. So only time will tell. So that sounds really interesting. So you use it from a different point of view, and all those breaking it down with the colors, which actually, number one, helps the information pop, which is what you need.
Yes.
Otherwise, things disappear and they don't register. But with the way you do it, that works for you in a particular way. How? Perfectly. Just pops, gets the information you need. And at the same time, the emotion, it brings an emotion of happiness because of those colors at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And were you given any other tools that can be helped when you've actually spoken to the specialist, or any other things that you found that works?
So just kind of like grounding techniques. So like that's mostly for like my anxiety. And really just understanding, this is where my content comes in, is really understanding what's going on in my brain is the most helpful thing for me. I'm a science nerd. I have my degree in biology and chemistry, and understanding what's going on, like the neurochemicals and the responses and the parts of the brain, like the amygdala is lighting up and stuff. Understanding that what's going on when I'm having these reactions, like, makes me kind of take a step back from it. Like, okay, this is normal. This is supposed to be happening. It's okay that this is happening, but here's how we can kind of turn it around, or just kind of process it and then move on from there. So just like knowing, what's going on in the brain has been a huge help also.
I'm glad that you're in a position where you can do that. And with that knowledge, how have you used that knowledge to help you understand and help you go forward in a positive way?
I haven't had a panic attack in over a year. And it's because of that kind of, it takes time. It's not like, oh, I learned this thing about my brain and now I don't have panic attacks anymore. Like, it's a learned mechanism when you have those kinds of things that you're dealing with. So it takes a lot of reinforcement of reminding yourself of these things that you learned. And then so when I'm going through stuff like this, when I'm struggling with something, whether it's, like a huge rut for a long time after a layoff and feeling burnt out and feeling overwhelmed, but also like I'm stuck, or it's panic attacks or whatever. Yeah, it feels not great at the time, but what I always try to do with that is spin it and think, okay, someone else who looks, up to what I do, who enjoys my content, who follows what I do, they're probably dealing with this too. How can I take my experience and turn this into a learning opportunity for someone else? So I try my best to like just kind of process what I'm dealing with. And then put that into words, or like a drawing that I can then turn into an animation or video, or a thread of tweets that informs people, and I find scientific articles or something. But I always try to take my experiences, learn what I can from them, and then turn that into something that can help other people.
Okay, and with that said, with all this learning and all this giving at the same time, because while you're doing that and becoming a person that's got a great knowledge for you to go forward in a positive way, and you're trying to teach other people, what technologies do you use to help you? Is there, with a lot of things going on at the moment, with technology helping it massively, from content to video and everything else, what technologies do you use to help you, that helps you with your ADHD?
So I know that this is controversial for some people, but honestly, things like ChatGPT have been huge for me. So a lot of times I will find that like I ramble, or I can't connect all of my ideas. I have these ideas, but I can't organize them, or I have this information, but I don't know how to word it. That takes so much of the second guessing out for me, the perfectionism. Like, obviously, I don't just take something from ChatGPT and paste it, but sometimes I'll just use the voice thing and I'll like ramble at it for 2 minutes, and then it just takes all those keywords that I said and puts it into something that makes sense. And then I'm like, yes, this is what I wanted to say. So then I'm like, okay, yeah. So let me just change this. I didn't mean to say
that's wonderful.
And it helps me it probably cuts down like hours of just like staring at a screen trying to figure out how I want to word something, you know. So that's like a big one for me.
Well, yeah, it's helped me at the same time. I've been using items like that for years, AI for years, and it's actually been a good teacher. I'm actually quite a reasonable writer, which I thought I would never be. But by having a real-time teacher, want for a better word, and seeing the mistakes I've made, I actually got to the stage, I wrote that better than the chat GPT. It's taken me years to get to that stage, but because I've had the good teacher, which wasn't chat GPT, it was other tools before chat GPT came along, but turned into chat GPT. It's taught me how to write creatively and how I write it in my own voice. So I totally understand where you're coming from. It saved me a huge amount of hours, and I'm actually better for it. So if you use these things as tools rather than straight copy and paste, these are game changers. And especially if you are neurodivergent, and I'm speaking to all the listeners out there, this is a wonderful time, because the majority of things that we're weak on, we're great leaders, we're great innovators, we have great minds. The problem is the written words, is being able to communicate in certain ways. Now we've got the tools that help us to do that. While you got people that aren't neurodivergent, they can write very well, but they're not necessarily great leaders, and they're not very creative. And there's a reason for that, because they were very good with the written words, so they didn't have to, like, for instance, all right, let me make it simple. I'm dyslexic amongst other things, and I wasn't very good with the written word, but I'm very good with a conversation. The reason why I'm very good with a conversation, because I was rubbish writing. So I had to somehow find another way to communicate with people. And the reason why I can communicate very well is because I was rubbish at writing, and I couldn't communicate that way. So with that said, my brain is focused in knowing how to read people's body language, how people pause, talk in such a way where it shows that they were lying or they're anxious, and so on and so forth. And because of that, that's made me who I am today. Now, I'm very skilled at that. Now, ChatGPT can't do any of that. Right. It can't be empathetic. You know, it can't read in such a humanistic way. It's very good with the noughts and the ones and the letters and this, that, and the other. And that can't be replicated. And that's the great thing with neurodivergence, is we are great leaders. We are great mentally in so many different ways, but when it comes to the written word and being able to communicate in certain ways where we find it difficult, technology now takes that over. And so we can be the best that we can be organically from a human being, but those things that we're weak on, that's what technology is there for. Well, you'll find that people that aren't neurodivergent, because their strength was in the written words, well, chat GPT and all that can pretty much do that nowadays to a certain extent, right? It still takes certain creativity from a human point of view. Sydney, am I rambling? Am I talking nonsense? Help me.
No, I'm following. I ramble all the time. That was not rambling.
Okay. Okay. So did that make sense what I was saying?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's not about replacing the person, the creative person. It's a supplement. It's an aid in helping them gather their and kind of like wrangle everything in and put it all together in a coherent piece of writing, I think.
Yeah. So using these tools, as long as we use it as tools, because if you use it as cut and paste 24/7, then what's going to happen is you're going to sound like everybody else, and you'll get lost, in the scheme of things. And also at the same time, you're not learning. Right. So hence I learned through using these tools, and I'm a better writer because of it, because I tried. It was there to improve what I had already done. I made the effort to write. Instead of saying ChatGPT or similar tools, write me a blah, 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 and write me a blog for da-da-da. I actually physically tried to write it, and then I asked, please improve it. And then I can compare what I did and what it did. And I thought, oh yeah, okay, I get that. And by doing that and having a teacher, a real-time teacher, I became a better me through it. Now I can write pretty well. I only use it as a tool to speed up the process of anything I'm doing. And then what I'm doing, instead of ChatGPT editing what I'm doing to improve it, I'm now using ChatGPT and I go, not good enough, and I edit ChatGPT.
Yep, that's what I do.
Do you get what I'm saying, Sydney?
Oh yeah.
Does that make sense?
Definitely.
So things have turned around for me, and I think using it as a tool is a great thing. But use it as a tool, nothing.
Yeah, it's not supposed to stand in and take your place. It's definitely just something to help and teach.
Yeah, totally. So right, Sydney. Okay, I'm taking over the podcast. Maybe I should call this Eli Dervonté's podcast. You know, this is not supposed to be about me. This is supposed to be this is Sydney's day. So as it's Sydney's day, she uses the tool of ChatGPT. Is there any other technical tools that you use? Anything at all from a technology point of view? Give us another for instance.
Well, I'm a big fan of spreadsheets. I have a sign on my wall that says, "Ooh, this calls for a spreadsheet." I just like to visualize data. I like to visualize information in an organized fashion. I can't organize things in my physical space, but digital organization is my thing. Notion is like my obsession. Have you ever used Notion? It's a productivity.
I have used Notions, yeah.
So, so this is a trend with me. I was starting to do these workshops for like neurodivergent people on learning how to use Notion, and like the first workshop was like chaotic, and then I got worried that everyone would hate it, and then I just didn't do anymore. But I should probably pick those back up. But yeah, I really like using Notion because it helps me process information. Even if it is just so for example, something I do with ChatGPT and Notion together is like, I'll have a conversation with ChatGPT, and then I will like copy the thing from ChatGPT, paste it into Notion, but then I will go through like line by line and kind of like change it or remove things or add more in there. And just by doing that, I feel like I understand the topic more. And then you can, of course, like color code things. I've started learning how to code in Notion. I love learning new things, so there's that. But yeah, Notion is like a really big tool that I use for just keeping track of stuff. I have an idea dump where I like push a button and then it opens up a new page where I can log my ideas, and it stores them for when I'm ready to revisit them again, if ever.
Okay.
But yeah, stuff like that.
I use the arch enemy, Cody. Have you heard of Cody? CODI.
No.
Notion. I used Notion, and Notion was okay, and then someone suggested Cody, and I used Cody, and I thought, oh, this is much better than Notion, and much more powerful too, because you can automate things and stuff like that, but still simple to use. And most people use Notion, but Cody. I'm
gonna write that down because I love
CODI. Cody. I promise you, once you've gone on the dark side, you will never come back again. Trust me.
I'll try it out.
Yeah, try it out, and let me know what you think of Cody. And once I got to Cody, I thought, nah, I'm not going to Notion. I'll stick with Cody. But it doesn't really matter. You just got to find what works for you. Listen, listeners, you know, it doesn't matter what you use. Notion is very good. Cody is very good, and there's a few others out there. The point is to find something that resonates with you. You're not going to use all of it anyway. You'll only use 10% of the power of that thing. The point is just use something that just resonates with you and just use it just to help you. It doesn't matter what other people use, but I use Cody.
That's the best one. Don't tell anybody.
Don't. And if you use Cody, make sure you tell them I sent you.
Something I also want to tell people is like, don't feel like you need to just use one thing. Like a lot of times we'll like get down on ourselves for like trying all of the things. Like I need to pick one thing. Like no, you don't need to pick one thing. Like if 4 things work for you, then use all 4. Like, there's no point in shoulding yourself. Like, I should just use this one thing, or I should do it this way. Like,
yeah, I know, I get you, but I've got to be careful because I'm a tech nerd. I've been in the tech space for so many years, and oh god, I don't get overwhelmed. I just love using so much tech, but I make it a rule now, and the rule is to not overwhelm or go through the mulberry bush. Is use 3 similar technologies, find out your favorite, find that one, master that one, and the other 2 are backups. Otherwise, what happens? You end up going, "Oh, that's better. That's better. That's better. That's better," and you never get to use that one just for your use. It doesn't matter. What you'll find with technology nowadays is that it'll have all these functions and features, and you only need to use 10% of the features. So it doesn't really matter if you go to its arch enemy and it's got 10 more things. And if you're not going to use those 10 more things, does it really matter if it's better on paper? What matters is it works for you in a simple way and it does the tools that you need in hand. That's what really matters. So I can get away with using so many tools because I obviously help clients try to simplify their business and neurodiverse people. But for me personally, I keep it down to 3 of the similar tools. I focus on one, and the other 2 are backups if that one messes up in years to come or days to come.
Good game plan. I need to stick to that probably.
Yeah.
See, we need to. We should. I'm doing it again. But
the power. Do you know what you think to yourself? I think every time before I get into something, the power of 3. Never go beyond the power of 3. If it means I have to go into 4 or 5, that means I haven't whittled it down to the best. 3 is enough, to be honest, and the 1 is the one you focus on, and the other 2 are just there to help you as a backup.
What if you only find one thing? Surely there's more things out there that you could compare. See, then that's where I get in trouble.
Usually, but then, that's not... Well, if you can only find the one thing, but you can't find others, do you know what you use?
The one thing.
Well, that means it is out there. You just don't know where it is. So then you can use a tool, and I use a tool which is called Perplexity, which is a bit like ChatGPT.
I've heard of that on a podcast, actually.
Yeah, if you go to Perplexity, that actually is very powerful of whittling out information on the net and elsewhere. So if you've got one tool and you say, right, okay, I've got ChatGPT and I want to use it for A, B, and C, but I would like 2 more tools. Now, the power of 5 when using ChatGPT and elsewhere, what you should do is say 5 examples, 5 tools, 5 ways, and that's a sweet spot. So you could say, I use ChatGPT and I want so-and-so functional. Please give me 5 pieces of software that do this. And bam, 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 bam. It will give you that. And then you just test it. They give you the links and everything. Use the power of technology. The power of technology.
Is Perplexity, like, does it have a free plan?
Yes, it is. It is free, just like ChatGPT, and also it has a paid version too.
Oh boy, here we go.
Also, what I would say is Gemini is very powerful. I use Gemini and I pay for Gemini. It's the only one I pay for. And the reason why I pay for Gemini is because it latches into the ecosystem of Google. And why do I use it? Because it will go into the Google Drive. It goes into Google Maps. It patches into all of Google. So when you're querying and asking questions, it will even patch into YouTube. So when you're querying questions, it's like search engine on steroids. All right. So
that freaks some people out, but honestly, I find that helpful. I like it.
So I have my multiple virtual assistants, which is, Google with its AI, and I do a lot in that. And as well as I use I could sat here. I just need, all I need to know is what is your problem, and I'll tell you what tools. So I'm not going to go on and on and on. but Perplexity is a good AI tool to use because it can patch into a lot of sources, and especially Gemini. Google's Gemini is very powerful because it patches right into the Google search engine, while YouTube. Remember, YouTube is the second biggest search engine. And you got Google, and if it's patched into those two things, while Google Maps, right? So you can say, I want a local restaurant that serves so and so. It will patch into Google Maps, and it will do all the hard work for you.
Wow. Yeah. See, like you were saying earlier, it doesn't need to. It's just like a supplement. It's a tool. It's helping. It's making our lives easier and day by day.
Exactly.
Things, yeah.
Exactly. And what it'll do when it brings you up the information, it gives you the link. So you click on the links, blam, there you go. Off to the races you go. So yeah. Oh my days. Oh, Sydney, I could easily have this conversation forever, but unfortunately I've got to call it a day. Maybe we should do something with each other and have a chat, because we can talk about a lot of things, maybe to help a lot of ADHD, and talk about the practicalities, and put a project together, and see what we can do.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. I would love that.
How would you like that, listeners? Would that be something, with the mindset of Sydney and my technical know-how, and we can put something together I think we should do that.
I would be down. I would be totally down. I have a website. I'm trying to put all kinds of projects together. That can be something that I feature for sure.
Yeah, let's think about that.
Okay.
All right. So, Sydney, what can you do to help people? What do you have to help people? And how do we go about that?
Like right now?
Yeah, so what can you do to help people? You've got your large Twitter following and whatever, got the information.
I have a YouTube channel.
Okay. And what does a YouTube channel? What is that all about? And what's the intel?
It's kind of a mix of things. I have some videos, like some of my older videos, like explain the science of ADHD medication and like how stimulants and non-stimulants work. And I have some videos that talk about like working memory, the types of ADHD, like the subtypes. I have a few shorts on there with my son. So just like a random mix of stuff, because again, consistency is an issue for me. So I just
but it all relates to ADHD and
it all relates to ADHD.
That's the point. So that's the consistency.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's going to always relate to somebody somewhere, because you're consistent in the bare fact that you're helping people with neurodivergent, right?
True.
Right, okay, so you are consistent. You just particularly want to be more focused on being really finite. Is that necessary? Think about it.
No, I guess not. I don't know. I have these standards for myself, like I think a lot of us do, and I tend to get fixated on them, and if I can't meet them, well, I should just give up. Like that's my mindset a lot of times, which is why I've been struggling to put content out there lately. But that's a good point, though. I should just
think about it. I'm not saying that what I'm said is correct. What I'm doing, I'm playing devil's advocate. Maybe you do need to focus down on something really small and focus on that thing. I'm not you, but I'm putting it out there. But remember, your channel is about neurodivergence, so you're helping loads of people. So don't kick yourself for helping neurodivergent people, because that's what it's focused on. Or maybe you want to niche down, but only you can answer that question. I'm just putting it on the table.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Actually. Yeah, think about it. So how can people contact you?
They can search what in ADHD and put like Sydney at the end of it, and on Google, and they should find my website, which is, I couldn't get my domain back, so it's actually whatinthebrain.com.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that's okay, but I could expand to like more mental health stuff eventually, so it's fine. They can find it like a contact form on my website. They can follow me on Twitter. I have a Facebook page that I don't use too much, but I'm on there sometimes, and then YouTube, of course. So yeah, Those are the basic
And
basics.
what I'll do, listeners, I'll put it down below so you can copy and paste, click away to your heart's delight. And, if you're neurodivergent or interested in that side of things and the subject matter, then who best than to speak to Sydni Rubio and see the content she's putting out, the helpful content. Remember, she's got YouTube, Twitter, and other things going on. So you'll see the links down below, and click away and join and follow. Why not? You've got nothing to lose. In the meantime, thank you, Sydni. I really appreciate you giving over your time. It's really appreciated.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate that.
It's a pleasure. So in the meantime, everybody, sayonara.